You're still watching ABC in the morning. I am Abna Mantu. Today's front story is in two parts, but to begin with, let's look at UTAG's silent majority. Out of all of the conversations about strikes against Galamsey and all, this conversation has birthed a silent majority, and this silent majority has given an ultimatum, a 3-day ultimatum to the leadership of the University Teachers Association of Ghana to end the strike that they are on. You would recall that the UTAG decided to go on strike even after organized labor suspended their strike. UTAG, amongst other things, had stated some of the requests or the demands they were making of government, and because of that decided to go on strike. And you would also recall that in a letter dated October 2, 2024, the NEC of UTAG instructed campuses to vote on whether they would support a motion advocating for industrial action against government's approach to illegal mining. And the aftermath of the vote was that some members of UTAG, identifying themselves as a silent majority, have issued a 3-day ultimatum to the association's leadership, whereas most of them voted in to say that they wanted to go on strike. They agreed to go on strike. This silent majority have issued a 3-day ultimatum to the association's national leadership and have called for an immediate cessation of the ongoing strike over the illegal mining Galamsey happening in the country. The members of the silent majority at this press conference in Accra on Tuesday argued that there was no justification for the strike, especially after organized labor had called off its action following government assurances to tackle illegal mining. This internal dissent within UTAG, a body representing university teachers, highlights mounting frustrations among some members regarding the continuation of the internal industrial strike. At the moment, one body, one group, there is division. Some for the strike and some calling for cessation of the strike. The dissatisfied members argued during the press conference on Tuesday that the strike lacks sufficient justification, particularly in light of recent developments. When UTAG voted, they came to a decision. Let's take a look at the voting outcome of UTAG across all of the 15 UTAG branches in Ghana. That UTAG, before the embargo on the strike, were required to get their full agreement everybody had to come on board to decide we're going on strike. It had to be a majority consensus to go on strike. And this was the UTAG referendum on the Galamsey fight. So the National Independent Electoral Committee, chaired by Dr. Ruben Ayivo Janik, confirmed the results on 9th October. And the referendum was conducted across all of UTAG's 15 branches. In all, 2,762 members participated. My apologies. In all, 2,762 members who participated voted in favor of the strike. And these 2,762 members make up 77.95% of the total votes. 607 of those who voted opposed, and they represented 21.78% of the total votes. 2 persons abstained from the votes. This amounts to 0.07%. And out of all of this, the silent majority, the people who call themselves the silent majority, are 67 members. So 67 persons are the silent majority, and they are the ones who are calling for the cessation of the strike. They are the ones calling for the cessation of the strike. Then the national leadership of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has responded to the petition, and they titled it Petition Against the Recent Indefinite Strike Action by UTAG NEC, which was filed by some members of UTAG. And the national leadership indicated that they appreciates the opportunity to discuss the concerns raised by the undersigned members, and in a statement responding to the petition by the disgruntled members, the UTAG national leadership said that UTAG remains firmly committed to the democratic processes that underpin all their actions, and that every decision, including the current strike, has been made in full consultation with membership across all campuses based on the mandate entrusted to the UTAG leadership, and their guiding principle remains the protection and advancement of the interest and welfare of all members, which is in line with UTAG's constitution and ethos. UTAG also says that despite the lapses and the disingenuous hidden motives in the silent members' petition that ordinarily should not have merited a response for the purpose of unity and togetherness, they still deem it necessary to respond to these members. And they raise these key issues. Let's take a look at them. Support for the nationwide ban on mining and prospecting. UTAG says, we wish to express our deep appreciation for your endorsement of UTAG's position on the nationwide ban on mining activities in environmentally sensitive areas, including forest reserves, farmlands, and river bodies. Our call for this ban reflects not only our commitment to environmental stewardship, but also a broader concern for the future of our nation's natural resources and the long-term sustainability of its economy. However, there seems to be a misunderstanding regarding the timeline and rationale behind UTAG's decision to support this cause. For clarity, UTAG first made a press release on September 9th, 2024, in which the association demanded that the government should place an immediate ban on mining and prospecting for gold and other minerals in forest reserves, farmlands, and rivers. We clearly stated that if government failed to meet our demand by September 30, 2024, we would embark on an industrial action. 2 days later, on September 11, 2024, Organized Labour called a meeting during which it made a number of demands from the government and indicated that if the government failed to act by September 30, it would embark on a nationwide strike and demonstrations, among others. So when the government failed to meet our demand by September 30, 2024, the National Executive Council of UTAG met to decide on the next line of action, and stated in our September 9, 2024, that NEC unanimously decided to activate the UTAG constitutional process by declaring an industrial action by authorizing the National Secretary to write to the National Independent Elections Committee and Branch Independent Elections Committee to conduct a vote on the motion. Should the NEC of UTAG declare an industrial strike, an industrial action in support of the nationwide ban on mining and prospecting for gold and other minerals in forest reserves, farms, and rivers? This process, as reflected in the motion, had nothing to do with the threats by Organized Labour and the decision by it to declare a strike on October 10, 2024. Indeed, you can see that the motion that members of UTAG voted on did not fully reflect the demands by Organized Labour. For example, for the state of emergency in mining areas, among others. It is therefore wrong to argue that the voting by UTAG members was to support a supposed strike by Organized Labour. For the avoidance of doubt, the voting that UTAG members did on the above motion had nothing to do with the decision of Organized Labour. Our support for the ban on mining stems from the existential threat posed by illegal mining activities to the environment, public health, and future economic prosperity. We believe that as educators and thought leaders, UTAG has a moral and professional duty to advocate for policies that secure the nation's resources for generations to come. This position remains valid and urgent, independent of organized labor stance, and continues to command the overwhelming support of members and majority of Ghanaians. Continuation of the strike post-organized labor meeting. So, and it goes on and on and on. So they give reasons for the continuation of the strike. And let's look at that. While it is true that organized labor suspended its nationwide strike following government's presentation of a roadmap, UTAG, as a distinct body with its own objectives and priorities, has remained steadfast in its decision to continue the strike. The overwhelming support from our membership for the indefinite strike reflects a shared understanding that this is a crisis of national importance. Illegal mining poses a direct threat to the environment, water bodies, agricultural lands, and by extension, the livelihoods of millions of Ghanaians. For this reason, UTAG cannot afford to take a passive stance or rely solely on promises of future action. Our members have consistently voted in favor of sustained and decisive action, and the strike remains a necessary tool for maintaining pressure on the government to act swiftly and responsibly. The mandate of UTAG, NEC, and the indefinite strike action. This is another subtopic that UTAG was addressing, and this is the address by UTAG. The assertion that the National Executive Committee acted unilaterally in declaring the indefinite strike is both unfounded and misleading. The strike was declared following rigorous consultation and deliberation across the various campuses of UTAG. As part of this process, the National Executive Committee ensured that the will of the members was reflected in our decisions. The October 10, 2024 strike date was determined and communicated to the National Labour Commission by UTAG before the organized labour's declaration. Our actions were driven by the urgent need to protect the national interest, as articulated in our September 9, 2024 press statement, which you are very much aware of. You may also want to abreast yourself with the UTAG Constitution, specifically Article 9, Clauses 4 and 5, which states, Clause 4, action by the NEC. Action by the NEC to authorize an industrial action shall be informed by votes of members at the branch level. For the avoidance of doubt, the National Executive Committee shall only make decisions based on the votes from individual members of the branches voting for or against the industrial action. When the majority of members vote, Clause 5, when the majority of members vote for the declaration of an industrial action, the National Executive Committee shall determine the nature of the industrial action, that is, partial or total, and set the actual date that the industrial action commences. Focus on holding the government accountable. This is another one that you are reacting to. We wholeheartedly agree with your call for the National Executive Committee to focus on monitoring the government's roadmap for addressing illegal mining. Indeed, the National Executive Committee of UTAG is already doing this, and as part of the processes, there are plans to hold weekly meetings to review the actions of the government relative to the roadmap provided. The first weekly review meeting by the National Executive Committee is scheduled to take place tomorrow, Wednesday, October 16, 2024. However, we believe that the indefinite strike is essential for ensuring that the government remains committed to its promises. Without sustained pressure, there is a real risk that the issue of illegal mining will be deprioritized and the commitments made by government could lose momentum or be delayed indefinitely. The strike is not an end in itself, but rather a means of holding the government accountable to its roadmap. While the National Executive Committee will certainly take steps to establish a dedicated monitoring team to track progress, and strike remains a vital lever to ensure the promises translate into tangible actions. We'll bring you more and more on that, but we will be speaking with Professor Isaac Boedi, Professor Isaac Boadi. He is the spokesperson for the aggrieved group of UTAG. And we also speak with Mumuni Salisu, who is the General Secretary of UTAG, as we go on in this front story. UTAG says that we share your concern that UTAG's leadership must represent the interest of all members, and we remain committed to this principle. The decision to declare the strike was not taken lightly, and the National Executive Committee acted with the association's best interest in mind and in tandem with the majority of members who voted for the strike. Our leadership at the National Executive Committee has consistently operated transparently, and every decision has been based on extensive consultations with members nationwide. We understand that some members may hold different views, and we encourage those who feel left out to engage with the leadership through the appropriate internal mechanisms. UTAG remains a democratic institution for today and the future, and the views of all members are valued. However, we caution against actions that may undermine the unity of the association at a time when our collective strength is most needed. Members must also understand that in a democracy, decisions that are made based on voting are always carried by the majority views, which all must respect. UTAG stands moving forward, and UTAG says that in response to the specific request outlined in your petition, 1, which is the call off the strike immediately, UTAG's response is that we believe calling off the strike at this stage would be premature and counterproductive. The strike is a primary means of maintaining pressure on the government to act decisively and not to use the roadmap as a smokescreen for inaction. So there's more of this conversation, but let's engage with Professor Isaac Boadi, who is the spokesperson for the aggrieved group of UTAG and the Dean for the Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the University for Professional Studies. Good morning, Prof.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to your viewers and your listeners.
Yes, Prof. Prof, you took a decision when you voted in that referendum all across Ghana, 15 campuses, and like the letter from UTAG states, in any democracy, the majority's decision is what carries the vote. Why is it that after you have allowed yourself to go through a democratic process like a referendum, you are now saying that you do not agree with the decision taken by the majority of your group?
Yes, good morning. I'm surprised by some of these assertions. Sometimes minority can also be right. It's not the majority. From your statement, UTAG membership is above, we have almost about 10,000 plus members. The total vote, yes, vote had 2,000 and above, represent about 70-something%. No, about 650 or 608 or so. So if you put the numbers together, it's almost less than 3,000 or 3,000 using a 10,000 and above membership. So we can't say majority. Others didn't vote because of the time and because of the fact that they didn't understand the motion. Others had internet challenges, so they could not vote. So giving you this background, you understand why the
we don't care about what disorganized
10,000 membership. So for me, yes, you say majority, but if you get to know the number, you then understand. So just first of all, to kill that mischief. But if you allow me to go into the substance of the issue, I don't know if I have time to do this.
Prof.
Hello?
Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Please, yes,
do I have time
to
go into the substance of...
Do that in 1 minute. Please do it snappy for us, but we want to get to the substance of the matter.
Okay, that's fine. So, I mean, it was just information that we had on the 2nd of October. The national leadership of UTAG sent a correspondence instructing campuses to vote on a motion should the NEC of UTAG declare an industrial action in support of national ban on mining and prospecting for gold and other minerals in forests, reserves, farms, and rivers. That was the motion. And this letter requested members' campuses to decide on the motion by 8th of October. I know this deadline was given to members' campuses to enable NEC, and that's what you should know, to enable NEC of Utah to decide whether to join organized labor's national strike or otherwise, which have been advertised to start on the 10th of October. This was why the membership of UTAG overwhelmingly voted in support of the motion, the NEC of UTAG, to declare an industrial strike in support of the nationwide ban on mining, prospecting for gold and other minerals. So you realize that the money given to UTAG, NEC, as witnessed in the overwhelmingly endorsement for supporting organized labor, ended when the mother body organized labor union suspended its strike action following the engagement with the government. That's all. So if you want us to go on strike, come back again, get a different mandate, and go and do whatever you want to do. This is what we are calling for. That they should immediately call off the strike, engage, monitor what the government is doing, engage other political parties, the presidential candidates, the PCs and all that, to sign a pact. And we're giving them a deadline.
Okay. Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Yes, UTAG has said that they are not bound by what organized labor decides because they also, as a body, stand alone. They are independent on their own and can take decisions that they deem fit or they believe that the decision can help. So they do not necessarily have to go by anything that organized labor says. In this case, when organized labor suspended its strike, UTAG was not bound to follow organized labor on that tangent.
Then they have deceived all of us in the voting. The message I read to you clearly indicated that they came to us to get our mandate to join organized labor to embark on the strike. So they could have come to us the first day and they would have told us, we needed your mandate to go on a strike, to give to us.
Okay.
But you don't tell us the mandate you gave it to us. We wanted to join. The organized labor say that, they declared that they won't go again. So we want to use it. If you want to go ahead, the group is just calling our leadership to order. Now look, use the right channel. The right, channel to do whatever you want to do.
Okay. Use the right channel to do whatever you want to do. So, Prof, so if I understand you, it means that the group, your leadership came for a decision. They came to you to take a decision to join organized labor, not to take a decision for themselves as UTAG to embark on a strike. If I'm right, Prof.
That is all that we are saying.
Okay, Prof, we have joining us Mumuni Salisu, who is the General Secretary for UTAG, and yes, he'll be the right person to answer this. You are welcome, Ilyasu Mumuni.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to you, my co-panelists, and your viewers and listeners.
Good morning. I want to come to you on what Prof. Boadi has said. Prof. Boadi says that when you were taking the decision for which the referendum was done, for which they all voted in the referendum, the question or the decision that was for the referendum was that they were supposed to vote in favor or against your decision to join organized labor, take an action against government, not for UTAG on its own to go on strike. Is that so, Ilyasu?
Yes, so thank you for this opportunity, and good morning to Prof. Gwedi.
Good morning.
I thought largely we've gone past all these discussions because there's been quite a lot of engagement on these other issues, and I probably was brought on board actually to speak to the status of what the strike is up to.
Oh yes, we will talk about that, but
not necessarily even engage in what some of our colleagues really have done over the past days. But
we'll go to that one.
But that notwithstanding, I think my senior colleague knows very well that whilst we appreciate their concerns and their right to actually come publicly with these other issues, some of these things really have to be put in clear perspective. And he knows that the mandate we went seeking from our collective group was not to join organized labor. The documentations are there. We've shared it with them. The serial pattern of what UTAC, right from September 9th up until now, that we've been through to. And so, if it was that actually we were rallying behind or together with organized labor right from the word go, naturally we should have gone together with organized labor. But we issued our presser independently and offered the threat at the end of September, and then moved ahead to Labour Commission and moved ahead to our various electoral commissions on campuses, and then finally to the vote. And NEC then making the decision that this is the pattern and form of the strike. That is exactly what we did. And we mandated each campus reps to engage members on the decision of NEC regarding the strike by providing the strike notices. And then, before Jack, our colleagues were out there that they had a silent majority and they had issues, and they voted because they thought the motion, which is not, if you read the motion, you will see from the motion that it had nothing to do with organized labor. Because we had called for that national ban, not organized labor. We, as UTAC. So if you go through if you did content analysis, you will see that we did that. And so we were asking members to vote for that. And members actually did. But then within that space that organized labor was on it, and bigger than almost every other because we're all part of it, naturally people would think the way they did. But being an insider, they know the truth. As to belabor these other things. And that, in fact, NEC would have been faster to go back to members and ask for a new mandate, if indeed that was the case.
Okay, you would have been faster.
We would have done that at the speed of light to members that, oh, no, we came because we were with organized labor. But now that organized labor, has stopped, we want to seek your mandate to see whether we should go solo or we shouldn't.
Well, Ilyas, now at the moment,
if you monitored the activities of NEC, you would have realized that we are just a bunch of guys who are constitutionalists, following procedures and ticking boxes that makes it right. That as academics, we don't jump the guns.
As academics, you don't jump the gun. However, we have gotten to this point where some of your members do not believe that the strike is a good option or an alternative at this time because government has taken steps to address them. These are well-meaning members of your organization. and all of you come together to collectively make up UTAG. How best are you going to address the issues? You have released a long statement, but beyond that, how best are you going to address their concerns?
In fact, we've been engaging them. They know we respect them. And for each UTAG member, we've always had one mantra: touch one, touch all. We respect, because the fight of NEC and every UTAG leadership is for the welfare and benefit of the UTAG member. So when our members have concerns, we really don't take it lightly. And that is why, since the issue broke up, we've been having engagements. We've been making serious effort to have issues that we have with them addressed, and to see how we can collectively, together with them, move further to make sure that whatever we are doing it in the interest of Ghanaians, UTAG members.
Okay.
And not with any other political lens, and not with anyone's bidding.
Okay.
Because today, UTAG will exist, tomorrow it will, and tomorrow next, until in perpetuity. And because of that, no leadership wants to taint the image of that brand. Once we do that, then this sort of autonomous, liberal scholarship we advance and push for will be dead. And we cannot have a livelihood that will be dead. And so we want to protect the sanctity and the integrity of that brand called UTAG. And that is why we've made, if you ask Prof. Boadi, we've made several efforts to have them on board, to engage, to know what role they can play together, to let them actually appreciate some of the issues we've had over the period, and processes will follow for addressing some of them, and how we can collectively move forward.
Okay, let me go to Prof. Boadi. Dr. Iliasu, let me speak with Professor Boadi on this. Prof, okay. The Secretary for UTAG says that they have engaged you, they have made it known to you that this is the tangent they are going, not necessarily because they wanted to go with organized labor. UTAG had their own mandate and UTAG is following it. Don't you think you should also give UTAG some, you should give them your attention and your time, so that the thing that is in the future, that end game can be achieved? At the end of the day, UTAG is looking at just making sure that government takes a very decisive action on Galamsey by spelling out one or two of the demands they request from government. Don't you think that at this moment the silent majority should throw their weight behind UTAG and see what the end game pans out to be?
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning again to my colleague. Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing well, Prof. I hope you are doing well.
Yeah, my brother, we are doing well. In fact, if I had known that we're going to have these discussions as colleagues and all that on this platform, probably wouldn't have joined. Initially, I was thought it was just to let you allow us to present our side of the story to you as presenter and to your viewers. You rightly indicated is one body, and I like the mantra: touch one, touch all. Will never in any way break or destroy our front. We'll never do that. And we respect our leadership. We have several occasions supported UTAG several times. I'm sure in the history of UTAG or so, I don't know, this could be the first time that some members will disagree for the first time with our leadership. It doesn't mean that we disrespect them. No. We respect our leadership. My secretary indicated that there will be several engagements. Maybe we can put on record. It's not a banter. We are not here trying to wash our clothes in public. It's a solution. In fact, we detest Galamsey. So for that one, I will applaud our leadership. The bold decision in the fight against Galamsey. We applaud them. But I think in terms of engagement, I think it started after our press conference. And I need to put on the records. When I had a call from the national executive, the national president, we've had several discussions on the phone, and then they extended an invitation yesterday to us for us to meet NEC at their meeting. And we can bring certain issues out to public because these are, but we tried to join. The notice came quite late. We had other engagement. We tried, the secretary to the group also tried to enter, but I'm sure I couldn't enter on time. So we didn't join the meeting. Not in terms of, was intentional, but we made an effort. He entered, but he couldn't have access at the point to enter. So officially, we have not met, but there have been some phone conversations and all that. Our worry here is a simple thing. We are fighting one common goal. We are concerned about the approach of all this. Already, we are breaking our backs. Most of our universities, my university, since COVID came, 2019, we've been working in an attempt to realign the academic calendar. Other issues do come in, and we are unable to align the academic calendar. If we embark on this strike up to this point, I don't know when, it's an indefinite, we distort the academic calendar again. Put that issue aside. For majority of our membership, the notion out there is that you sought our mandate to join UTAG. Maybe our people were not educated well and they voted. And you look at the number that voted, over 10,000 against over 3,000. In fact, the silent majority is only calling our leadership. It's not too late. We will support you in any way. We will do this. Our first plea to our leadership, please, you call off the strike. And then we can sit. There was a publication today or so that Mining and Mineral Income or something as having some collaboration with UMAT on how to clean our polluted waters and all that. That is a good initiative. We have so many options to give to our government.
All right. Prof, so I'll come back to this conversation again, but I think that the import of the conversation has been met. You're looking at the fact that the academic calendar has not been well structured following its distortion after COVID, and you believe that there are other avenues to be looked at beyond strike. Prof. Boadi, thank you, and Dr. Elias Omomuni, thank you. We'll come back to this conversation, but I'm glad that you are talking about going back to the table and speaking to iron out any differences that there may be. We'll come back to you and get what the decision will arise after your various conversations. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Isaac Boadi is an assistant professor in finance and the dean for the Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the University for Professional Studies in Accra, and he is the spokesperson for the aggrieved group of UTAG. We also spoke with Dr. Elias Omomuni, who is the General Secretary for UTAG. Well, we have gotten a certain headway, so to speak, about this conversation because we realize that the aggrieved group is also coming from a certain angle. We will have more conversations with them. Let's get into our second conversation on our front story. The EC Electoral Commission has disqualified Joanna Jan Cudjoe, who is the NDC parliamentary candidate for the Memphis Central constituency. They have disqualified her from participating in this year's parliamentary elections, and it is a decision which follows an order for interlocutory injunction issued by the High Court in Sekondi on May 31. And in the case of Jedu Frimpong versus 4 others versus Joanna Jan Cudjoe versus the NDC and the Electoral Commission, the court order restrains Joanna Jan Cudjoe from holding herself out as the duly elected NDC parliamentary candidate for the Memphis Central until the final determination of the matter. Additionally, the NDC and the Electoral Commission are prohibited from recognizing or affording her any rights or privileges as a candidate. And in a letter which was dated October 10, the Deputy Chairman of Operations for the Electoral Commission, Samuel Tete, informed Joanna Jan Kujo of her disqualification, stating that the Commission is bound by the court order, which has neither been stayed nor vacated. All of this has sparked several conversations and legal arguments. However, the Member of Parliament from Memphis Central, Peter Kwache Aka, says he holds no ill will towards the NDC, and in the wake of Joanna's disqualification is willing to collaborate ahead of the December polls. According to the now independent candidate, he is willing to collaborate with the party to forge an alliance to win power in 2024. But I want to know the NDC's position surrounding the disqualification. Mustafa Bande is the Deputy General Secretary for the NDC, and he joins us for a conversation. Good morning, Mustafa. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Mustafa, the EC has disqualified your parliamentary candidate for Memphis Central following that injunction by the court. Are you going to challenge this?
I think that, thank you very much for this opportunity. First and foremost, the party is not worried at all because given the circumstance, we believe that if the party, the EC had engaged with the party, we would not in the first place find ourselves on this path. And secondly, we all are aware that following the disagreements which led to an action in the court, and consequentially the interlocutory injunction seeking to nullify the already held parliamentary election in Memphis Central, the party decided to do so by nullifying that election even before the court decided and organized fresh election. Honorable Kwachiaka, who is the ringleader in opposition of Joanna Jan Kujo, participated in the subsequent or the new election, except to say that in the end he was caught on charges of forgery, and he admitted to that and exited from the election on his own voluntary account. The EC then proceeded to declare Joanna Jan Kujo as an unopposed candidate and affirmed same. And then the General Secretary proceeded to write the letter in accordance with the laws of the Electoral and procedures of the Electoral Commission on the basis of the secondly held election. And so the Commission itself was the one that supervised that election. It is therefore unimaginable that the same Commission will now pretend to believe that there's a matter in court on this election, even though...
Mustafa, is there not a matter in court?
There is a matter in court, but the substance of the matter have extinguished. On the record, I think that our lawyers should have written notifying the court that there was a fresh election and the outcome of it.
Then this is not an issue that you can, this is not a blame you can level on the EC. The EC is just acting based on what the court, decision.
You cannot, so why did the EC write a letter on the 6th, hide that letter from the public, only to serve it on the 16th? And it took 16 for the commission to write to the court, seeking to verify whether there's a matter pending. We are at that level because we have a challenge with how the judge even handled the matter. The judiciary have made rules of the court which suggest that matters involving elections are fast-tracked because of the consequences or the gravity of interest that they carry.
Okay, Mr.
Why did the judge adjourn a matter involving a parliamentary election from May up to October, when at the time we had completed filing candidates? Why will a court do that?
So, Mustafa, what is the NDC going to do? What is your next line
We
of
are taking that in good faith and taking judicious notice of the letter, we will first of all draw the attention of the commission to their erroneous effect of their letter, and then subsequently we are ready to engage in a legal battle that will deal with the finality of the matter.
Well, we have just a few weeks to go to the elections, and this issue from Amenfi Central has been litigated for so long. However, your MP, who is now saying he's going independent, says that he's willing to collaborate to form an alliance with the constituency. So, will you consider this?
Why did he say that? Why did he say that? Because he is on an independent...
Well, he says he's willing to collaborate with the NDC. I mean, if he's going independent now, in any case...
I can tell you on authority that he is not going to be regarded as an ally of the party at this point.
Okay.
But we haven't taken a decision on his fate yet.
I mean, it's just you haven't taken a decision on his fate.
We are going to deal with these matters. The General Secretary will be addressing the press, and I think that tentatively he will make it known what.
I ask this because just 2 days ago, minority in Parliament are invoking Article 97 to declare some seats vacant, and this seat is one of those seats. You won't have to write to Parliament to Speaker to let Speaker know that you don't regard him anymore. But at this point, you don't have a candidate in the constituency. There's just a few days left.
We haven't written to the Parliament.
You haven't written?
As far as I am concerned.
So why is minority then seeking to have his seat vacated?
Parliament runs independent of political parties.
Mustafa, yesterday I spoke with Dr. Rashid Tanko.
Please listen to me.
Yes,
the 1992 Constitution is independent of political parties' constitution, and it has subjective relationship.
Okay.
And so the party doesn't bar Parliament from running its affairs, and Parliament doesn't bar the party from running its affairs. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that it suffices to mention to you that the party has been very hesitant in taking any action because we clearly are on a reconciliatory path as far as Amenfi Central is concerned.
Okay, but yesterday I spoke with your Deputy Director for IT and Elections.
I'm not going to be answering on the basis of what you ask anyone.
You won't be answering on that?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. But Mustafa, you're going into an election just a few days or few weeks to the elections. The calendar is so close, and the door looks like it is almost close to your party. We want to know, you said that you are still on a reconciliatory path, but what are the things you are going to do in this interim? Fast tracking to make sure that you have someone.
The windows are not closed yet. We are in a rule of law era. The law will test the laws and get to its final conclusion. What I foresee happening is that any recalcitrancy on the part of the Commission would lead to a situation where we may not be able to hold a Amenfi Central election on December 7th.
But Mustafa, why are you putting all of the blame at the doorstep of the
I haven't blamed
Commission?
The Electoral Commission. Recalcitrancy is not a blame. Recalcitrancy is a description of one's action to the effect that position is found to be unreasonable and unquestionable. And I think that if the Commission has averted itself to its own work, it wouldn't write such a letter. We find it very erroneous and disingenuous. And so all of these will be dealt with when the party sets in to finally outdoor its conclusive stance on this matter.
Mustafa,
and I think the General Secretary will do that.
Finally, before you go, if you get to that point where the party has no representative in the elections, are you going to say...
We will not get to that point where the party goes into election in any constituency in Ghana without a representation. It won't happen.
Mustafa, we are looking forward to your General Secretary speaking on this matter, and we'll do well to come back for this conversation. Thank you for joining us.
I am more grateful.
Mustafa Gbande is the Deputy General Secretary for the NDC. This conversation is on the disqualification of Joanna Jan Cudjoe of the NDC. She has been disqualified for standing as the parliamentary candidate for the Amenfi Central. At the moment, the current MP who is going independent is also a member of the NDC. Peter Kwakye Aka says that he's ready to collaborate with the NDC in the constituency. However, Mr. Fagbande says that they will be issuing a statement soon. The General Secretary of NDC will issue a statement soon. We look forward to this because he is so sure that NDC will not, it won't happen that there will be any elections this 2024 without NDC on the ticket. We'll still follow this conversation so that we can bring you all of it. This is all Forefront Story this morning on ABC in the Morning. Let's take a breather. We will be back.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Bawumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Bawumia #1 on the ballot.
Watching ABC in the morning live on ABC News GH. We're streaming live on our YouTube channel. The channel is ABC News GH. Kindly subscribe to the channel and turn on post notification for the channel. You will be updated with everything that we show on ABC News GH, and I promise you that you would love it. You would love it so much, so much. Let's look at what is on the various news portals just before we get into sports. On ABC News GH, which is the website you should be visiting every day for your news, relevant news, timely news, newsworthy news, you should be visiting ABC News GH. On ABC News GH, it says that the Speaker to rule on petition seeking removal of 4 MPs today. We are all looking forward to his ruling, and he's ruling today on that. WACCE celebrates 10 years of championing peace and security across West Africa. And a military officer has been killed. 5 others have been injured in an accident in the Upper East region. And Justice Abdullahi says government should reconsider rejected recommendations by the Emil Short Commission. We spoke with Justice Abdullahi yesterday on ABC in the morning. Let's look at My Joy Online. Samson Anyanini says that interlocutory injunction is not grounds for disqualification and says that the EC's decision is flawed. Mustafa Bande to Peter Kwachiaka says you can't hold NDC to ransom, all in the conversation on Amenfi Central. And Sonon Asogli PA shuts down due to $259 million owed by the ECG. Sonon Asogli is shutting down due to this huge amount of money owed them by the ECG. Let's take a look at City Newsroom. On City Newsroom, Herbert Crapper says that proposed PURC Energy Commission merger, we will respect the views of stakeholders. He says that they will respect the views of stakeholders. And Brian Echampon has clarified that affected farmers will receive 1,000 Ghana each, not 3,000 Ghana cedis. Affected farmers will receive 1,000 Ghana cedis each, not 3,000 Ghana cedis. And this is in relation to the dry spell happening in the northern parts of Ghana. The Institute for Energy Study says that Sonon Asogli's shutdown may force Ghana to import more power. And in a very distressing conversation, the police is on manhunt for 3 Imperial SHS students who have been alleged to have been involved in gang rape. So these are some of the conversations on the various news portals. For more news, visit our website www.abcnewsgh.com. We are glad to bring you all of the news that you would love and you would want to read. Let's get straight into sports. My colleague Derek Kumiki-Sedu is on hand to give us the latest in sports.
morning. Welcome to the sports segment here on ABC in the morning. I am Derek Kumi Kisiedu. Now let's dive into the world of sports as the Ghana Man Center of Excellence GSCE in Pram Pram is set for a trailing tournament as regional teams from across Ghana arrived yesterday, October 16, to participate in the highly anticipated Elite Under 15 Boys Championship. The tournament, which is part of the FIFA Talent Development Scheme, TDS, designed to spotlight the next generation of football talent, has brought together young players from all 10 regions, each eager to showcase their skill on the national stage. The championship, which officially kicked off today, October 17, aims to provide a platform for young footballers to compete in a high-level environment with the goal of fostering talent and encouraging development of sport at the grassroots level. The atmosphere at the GSCE is charged with anticipation as players, coaches and administrators prepare for a week of competitive football. Teams from all the 10 football regions have assembled at the Technical Center in Pram Pram for the championship, which is ready to kick off today. Earlier in July this year, the Elite Under 15 Girls Championship was held at the same facility with the Ashanti region emerging winners of the competition. The boys edition promises to be more exciting with talent drawn from the courts leagues in all regions across the country. Now let's look at today's fixtures for the 2024 Elite Under 15 Boys Championship. In the opening game, the Ashanti region will face off against the Eastern region, setting a trailing tone for the championship. This match promises to be a showcase of skills and determination as both teams aim to secure an early victory. Following the first encounter, the second match in the morning will see the Upper East region take on the Northern region. This clash is expected to bring out the best from the Northern teams, each eager to assert their dominance in the championship. As the day progresses in the afternoon section, Greater Accra will lock horns with the Upper West region. The Bronga Half region will go up against the Volta region in the second game of the afternoon, promising a fiercely contested match as both teams vie for a crucial win. To conclude the day's fixtures, Western region will clash with Central region in the reserve game. Now, away from that, Ghana's beach soccer national team has arrived in Egypt for the 2024 Beach Soccer African Cup of Nations, scheduled to begin from October 19 to 26, 2024 in the city of Hurghada. The Black Sharks wrapped up their pre-tournament campaign in Qatar on Tuesday evening and embarked on the journey to Egypt for the tournament on Wednesday afternoon. The Black Sharks left on yesterday, October 16, 2024, to Hurghada, where they will continue preparation for their opening game against Egypt on October 19, 2024. Under the guidance of head coach Daniel Nikwe Korte, the squad focused on fine-tuning their strategies and building team's cohesion during their pre-tournament campaign in Qatar. The Black Sharks will face host Egypt in the opening match on Saturday, October 19, before they line up against Morocco and Tanzania in subsequent Group A matches. In Group B, title holders Senegal will face Mozambique, Malawi and Mauritania in the group phase of the competition. With excitement building, Ghana's side is poised to put up a stellar performance and secure a ticket to participate in the 2025 FIFA Beach Soccer World Cup, which will be staged in Seychelles. And that's how we wrap up this whole segment here on ABC in the morning. I am Derek Kumi Kisiedu. Up next is Health Tips with Melo.
that meat isn't always easy. A single wolf pack's territory averages 80 square miles in size. Wolves have scent glands in their toes, so as they track prey, they leave messages behind for fellow pack members. They have a highly developed sense of smell, and in the right conditions, can detect scents from almost 2 miles away. Prey might be tracked for hours or days before the pack starts its chase. The longest recorded pursuit stretched for 13 miles.
Welcome to the health segment on ABC in the morning. Health Tips is now and ready. So in the previous episode, we brought you 5 ways to detect that you have breast cancer. On today's episode of Awareness of Breast Cancer Month, we're talking about 5 common signs and symptoms that may indicate that you have breast cancer. And so, as I said some time back, we know that breast cancer is in women, but most of you have this misconception that guys cannot also get breast cancer. But let's put our focus on some signs and symptoms that may indicate that you could be having or suffering from breast cancer. So the first one we're tackling is that you may be seeing a lump or a thickening that's more like a sharp, painless lump and thickening in the breast underarm area. Now this can be small, pea-sized, or a larger, or it may also feel different from the rest that you also have been feeling. So just as you see on your screens, if you always pay attention to your breast, you massage it, you see any developing lump, you see any thing brewing up under your breast, you should know that it could be a breast cancer trigger over there. Now the second point we have to look at is that there's changes in your breast size. Now ordinarily, one breast must be bigger than the other. Scientifically, it has been proven that not all breasts are equal. So one of the breasts seemingly is bigger than the other. But however, if you see some different changes, sudden changes in breast size or shape abnormally, of course, you see swelling, redness, and inflammations also, then it means that you're becoming prone to having breast cancer. And so for those of you who just put your hand on your breast and do not even identify whether or not you're getting breast cancer symptoms, unfortunately, if you see these signs and symptoms, it is telling you that you should see a doctor because you're developing a breast cancer over there. Now, on the third point, you are going to witness or see nipple discharge. Now, this one, let me just give some advice to the guys. So we know you have your partners, and sometimes you guys say that you want to take control, in charge of the breast. So whilst you're trying to massage your partner's breast, and whilst you want to take control inside the bedroom, and you want to have all the breast for yourself, when you massaging your partner's breast and you see some discharge, most of you also, it's early, but I don't want to use any words, you're sucking and you actually taking in all the discharge. You may not know that you're taking some breast cancer, yellowish discharge from your partner because you feel that she's okay. But when this yellowish discharge comes in from the nipples of your partner, especially your female spouse, it means that she has breast cancer. So guys, please just help your spouses, your partners, so they can know that they are breast cancer free. So if they see these signs, it means that they are prone to breast cancer. Now on to the fourth one, the skin changes. Yes, now this is rare. Some people do not really see these skin changes in them, but it is true, it happens. So you will be experiencing some dimpling also, that's your perking, and of course some redness of the skin. Most of you feel that maybe it's as a result of the hot sun that is actually getting irritations on your skin, but hey, until you get checked at the facility or a hospital, you may not know. And so if you see such skin changes, whether it's becoming darker, whether it's becoming reddish, it means that it could be a sign or a trigger of breast cancer. And so others may include inflamed skin changes in skin texture. Anytime you touch your skin, you feel it's speeding off or it's ripping off. Well, it is telling you that you need to see a doctor so you get checked or tested for breast cancer. Now on to the final part of the tips is pain or tenderness Now, this pain can cause some tenderness in the breast or underarm area. Then the pain does not go away. It also changes over time. So in between the time that you're feeling pains between your breasts and you're feeling dizzy and there's this tenderness of rash and all of that, it is telling you, some people even have headache. They have burning sensations all over their body. They do not even know that breast cancer is what they are battling with until they get tested. And so the first one we brought you, and this one also, you will be experiencing some pain or tenderness in your breast. And so swollen limb, and these are signs and symptoms that should tell you that if you see these in your body, it means that you may be experiencing breast cancer. Anyways, guys, this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode. Do want to catch us on our next episode on health tips on ABC in the morning. Do well also to make sure that you get tested and check yourself during this breast cancer awareness. My name is Eric Melo. Thanks for watching.
2017, the NPP inherited a fragmented digital infrastructure that limited public service efficiency. Since then, we've revolutionized how services are delivered with the Ghana card and mobile money interoperability, enhancing speed and accessibility. Our efforts have greatly improved government interactions, making life easier for every Ghanaian. However, our vision doesn't stop here. We aim to further expand and modernize Ghana's digital landscape. The journey towards a fully integrated digital society continues. Stand with us. Vote for innovation. Vote for Bawumia. Bawumia means business.
In 2017, the NPP inherited an infrastructure network in need of renewal. We've since focused on building modern, resilient infrastructure, expanding roads, railways, and housing through strong partnerships with the private sector. As we enter the next chapter, a revitalized public works department will lead maintenance, with local governments enhancing district roads. We are committed to expanding railways and upgrading airports to connect Ghana for a stronger future. While much has been achieved, there's still more to do. Vote for Bawumia. Bawumia means business. In 2017, the NPP inherited an infrastructure network in need of renewal. We've since over the past 8 years, the NPP has significantly improved support for our most vulnerable citizens. From expanding school meal programs, enrolling 300,000 more people in the LEAP initiative, enhancing healthcare for expectant mothers, we've strengthened the fabric of our society. But our work isn't done. We are committed to further enhancing these programs and introducing new initiatives to ensure that every Ghanaian has the opportunity to thrive. Vote for progress. Vote for care. Vote for Bawumia. Bawumia means business. Over the past 8 years, the NPP has significantly improved support for our most vulnerable citizens. From expanding school meal programs, enrolling 300,000 more people in the LEAP initiative, enhancing healthcare for expectant mothers, we've strengthened the fabric of our society. But our work isn't done. We are committed to further enhancing these programs and introducing new initiatives to ensure that every Ghanaian has the opportunity to thrive. Vote for progress. Vote for care. Vote for Bawumia. Bawumia means business. Over the past 8 years, the NPP has
You're still watching ABC in the morning. Like Eric Melo said, do well to have your breast examined. As women, it's very necessary and important. If you see anything which is quite unusual, you need to see the doctor, see any medical, seek for medical attention. Very, very necessary. Away from that very important reminder to us, let us look at what's happening in the world of business, and Business Fix is up next. Power Limited has announced that they will be shutting down their power plant. They will be shutting down their power plant. And since the news broke, Ghanaians have been bothered, have been concerned about why this. And let us get into why they are going to shut down their power plant. They released a statement. Let's read the statement to you. So, press release to all media houses dated October 16. Sanan Asagli 560 megawatt power plant shut down. Sanan Asagli Power Ghana Limited regrets that they have been compelled to suspend operations since Tuesday, 8th October 2024. The shutdown happened at 5 p.m. that day. This difficult decision was necessitated by our inability to fund our operations because of the failure of the Electricity Company of Ghana to honor their overdue payment obligations and their various promises to that effect. Sanan Asagli Power Ghana has over the years been very considerate in its dealings with the ECG and the government, and unlike other independent power producers, has not even invoiced ECG for accrued idle capacity charges. Despite this, ECG owes Sanan Asagli a net excluding fuel receivable amount of $259 million as at the end of September 2024. Our debt has grown by 23% on the net balance between January 2024 and September 2024, and only 22.6% of the invoices for period has been paid by ECG from the cash waterfall mechanism. We deeply regret the impact of this decision on the national power supply. We expect the Ministry of Finance to intervene for us to return to operations as soon as possible. It is signed by Chairman Con Young. This is why Sanan Asagli is shutting down their 560 megawatt power plant. Let's go over who and what Sanan Asagli is. So this is a first project, okay? This project is a project that was invested into by the China Africa Development Fund and the Shenzhen Energy Group. And when it started, there was the first installed capacity for the power plant. The first phase was 200 megawatts, and it was completed in 2010. And the second phase of the installation of their capacity was 360 megawatts, which they commercialized in 2017. In all, their power plant has an installed capacity of 560 megawatts, and they are the first independent power producer in Ghana. They are the first independent power producer in Ghana, and their power plant is a gas-fired one, and they contribute approximately 10% of Ghana's installed generating capacity. 10% is quite a huge margin, and they contribute that. You would recall that sometime in December last year, Sanan Asagli threatened to shut down operations, but they delayed that shutdown based on some assurances they had from the Minister of Finance then. All of this compounds onto today. Hearing yesterday that Sanan Asagli said that on Tuesday they had shut down operations. 8th of October they had shut down operation because ECG owes them up to a tune of $259 in debt. For a group that contributes 10% to the nation's installed generating capacity. This is worrying. Let's have a conversation with Kojo Yauche, who is a policy lead on petroleum and conventional energy. Good morning, Kojo. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Kojo.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me now?
Okay. I'm finding it a little difficult to hear, Kojo. Let's take a break. We'll be back. Apologize for that little technical challenge we faced, but everything is quite sorted. Let's speak with Kojo Yauche on this conversation. Good morning, Kojo. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great.
Kojo, Southern Assembly contributes 10% to our installed generating capacity. Today they say that they are shutting down operations. Should we be expecting that Dumsor will be back?
Now, I mean, that is a very worrying situation that we are facing now. And not only 10% to the entire capacity that we have, but if you look at the thermal composition of the capacity that we have, Asogli contributes to some 25% of the thermal production that we currently have. And that is a little over 500 megawatts of power. Somewhere earlier this year, we were shedding around 600 to 800 megawatts, and that caused a lot of power outages within the country that everybody was complaining about. So if we are having a whooping 500 megawatts being taken off the grid, that really is a cause for concern, and that really signals that we should be expecting some blackouts very soon.
You should be expecting blackouts very soon. They have
that is if immediate steps are not taken to really bring them to the table to come into a certain level of agreement that allows them to continue providing this power.
But will Southern Assembly want to come back to the table, looking at the assurances that they received from the Minister of Finance sometime in December about their request? In December, they mentioned that they were going to shut down because ECG owed them. The Minister of Finance spoke with them, gave them certain assurances, and they didn't shut down. Some 11 months later, the same conversation is coming back up again. Do you believe that they will be willing to come back to the table to negotiate?
I mean, the threat of a shutdown or the eventual shutdown is only like a last resort to the company to try and get what is due them. I believe that, I mean, this is a company that has made investments in the country. They've operated over the years. It will be in their best interest to have their business going so that they can get return on their investment. So I strongly believe that as a business that wants to continue to make business and make money, they would come to the table if the terms are favorable and agree on something that we can move on with.
If the terms are favorable, they complain that ECG owes them up to $259 million in debt, beyond fuel and other things that should be added. Does ECG even have the capacity to start to pay them?
I mean, ECG owes everybody in the power value chain. And the problem really has been, and that is what we have always highlighted and caused stakeholders to pay attention to. The problem really has been that ECG is simply not collecting enough. In the past 1 year, the data from PRC suggests that ECG is only doing about 43% of the collection that it's supposed to do. And those collection is supposed to go into the cash waterfall mechanism. That is to ensure that there is some equitable distribution of the revenues that is collected. Even that they defy that directive and they do whatever they want to do. And the powers that be sit on and watch them to do those things. So the debt in the sector has racked up. And this $200 and something million that Asoglu is talking about doesn't even account for the one that we already owe them. That is the legacy IPP debts that we have to pay. In addition to this is just the recurrent receivables that is due them within the past 6 months. So the system is at a brink of collapse. If everybody wants to shut down, to demand what is due them, then we are in a very dire situation as we speak. We need a complete overhaul of the distribution system. It's simply not efficient. You can't do business and give 1,000 megawatts of power you sell, and they are only able to recover 43%. The people have already sold the power to you, so there is nothing you can do than to pay them. And the current situation that ECG is in now is not being run properly, and I doubt if they will be able to do to come through the money themselves. And over time, we've seen governments come in to shoulder the responsibilities of the power sector. In the past 5-6 years, government has been doing on the average every year about $1.5 billion of under recoveries from the power sector. That is essentially taking money that we could have spent on social investment, we could have spent on education, on roads, on hospitals, and putting it into the power sector without really fixing the problem, which is the debt accumulation of the power sector. So on this occasion as well, the expectation is that government will come in and bail out, taking money from me, starving some other source or starving some other investment of that money to pay now. But the problem of debt accumulation continues to persist. And anything that we do that does not involve solving the debt accumulation problem is only an exercise in futility. We'll keep going back. And you made mention of 11 months ago, Asoglu threatened to shut down. And we found some arrangement to pay some of the money with the promise that we were going to pay. Now we are back to that point again. We will still find some plaster aid over the problem and then go back to sleep. And then a few months down the line, we'll have the same problem. And as we do that, the debt keeps growing and the burden on governments and the citizens also keeps ballooning.
Could you say that there should be an overhauling of the system because the system is not sustainable at the moment? In overhauling it, what are some of the policies that you envision that must be implemented to make our system a better and a more robust system? It seems it's always the same cycle. You start from one point and then it's a never-ending cycle, the same thing over and over again. What are some of the things we should put in place to break the cycle and also make the system a better one?
I mean, we've always insisted that government control over the management of ECG is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing, where the managers of the company are not even responsible to the consumers that they serve. They are responsible to some appointing authority. You remember the point where we were even asking for a simple schedule, so we know when our lives will go on. As consumers of a utility, they couldn't be bothered about us because the appointing authority wanted to create the impression that there was no problem, right? So we will have to move beyond this point where government controls the management of the company to a point where we inject some form of private sector participation, so that the regulator can properly regulate the sector. Right now, PRC is proving toothless because it's government regulating government. They are both appointed by the president. And in recent times, you've seen the public banter between the regulator and the utility. That doesn't happen in other sectors where government is the regulator and there are private entities operating in the center, even in Ghana here. So we have to go back to a point where we run the distribution sector as a commercial entity that is run to a certain level of efficiency that clears all of these debts in the system and injects genuine capital to retool the distribution infrastructure to ensure that the losses are significantly reduced.
Well, what more can government do? At the moment, government is the one in charge. What more can government do to improve the framework that it has with the independent power producers so that we do not have to get to this point any longer? Because if the power producers have to always resort to shut down or have to resort to drastic measures before we all sit up and listen, that is worrying. What more can government do to look at their policies?
No, that's what I just stated, that we have to let go of the management of the company. We have to go back to the process that we wanted to have a concessionaire to manage the company. We are not calling for ECG to be sold. That is not it. But we are calling for a more efficient manager that can be properly regulated. Until government lets go of the company, for whatever reason they keep holding on to the management of the company, we are still going to come back to it because they've proven time and time again that they are not efficient in the management of the company. That is the first thing that needs to happen to really face the problem that we are having. All of the other things that we can do, we introduce cash waterfall mechanism, the SCG doesn't put the money there. So the problem really is there, but we shouldn't skirt around the problem trying to introduce this, trying to introduce that. That will not work. Right now, we have to bite the bullet and do what is necessary for the sustainability of the power sector.
So, could you, barring government negotiations with Senan Asagli, we should expect that Dumsor will be rearing its head again?
Of course. I mean, if some company is producing 25% of your thermal power, and thermal power constitutes about 60% of the power that is generated in the country, then you should expect that there will be load shedding. And we are only calling on the power distributor. We all know that there will be load shedding, so they should provide us a schedule so that we prepare for ourselves.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Kojo.
Thank you for having me.
Kojo Yauche is a policy lead at the Petroleum and Conventional Energy at ASEP. And this conversation is on Senan Asagli. They have shut down operations following the debt owed them by the Electricity Company of Ghana. They are owed $559 million, excluding fuel. And they say that they haven't been paid and they have been compelled to shut down. This is all for Business Fix this morning on ABC in the morning. We will be back with our main discussion.
Thank you, boss. See you next week. Yo, where is my passport? Where is my passport? Yo, man, I want to Waba.
What is that?
And then
Give me my passport.
Man, relax.
Relax. You made me pay for express for 24 hours, and yet it's not in.
You told me that you are telling me this. What's going on? Hello.
This man here has taken my money. That within 24 hours, he'll do my passport for me.
Oh, the same thing applies to me. He told me last night. He's telling me this week.
Process. That's what they do.
Yeah. Oh, madam. Please relax. I'll get for you in 24 hours.
Hey, Goroma. So you never change? You get passport for someone within 24 hours, Madam Obwa. See, the normal working hours is 9 to 5. Not 24 hours, yeah, I'm fat. You guys have made a very big mistake by trusting these people. Now, through digitalization, passport application has been made so easy. Now, you don't need to stress yourself and join any long queue for your passport. All you have to do is to log on to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and begin your application. By buying a passport application voucher online. Simple and easier. And very soon, all you need to get your passport will be your Ghana card.
What is it true?
Yeah, Obisa. It is possible.
You yourself, I didn't know this. I feel like this.
Come on. Come on.
In the morning, live on ABC News GH. Straight into our conversation, we are looking at the issues surrounding strikes in the education sector. So many strikes since the beginning of the year, from CTAG, TUSAG, TEWU, FUSAG, all of them. And the ongoing recurrent strike by various teacher unions, including all of the unions I mentioned, TEWU, CTAG, TUSAG, FUSAG, the Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana, has become a growing concern in the education sector. These frequent disruptions not only affect students, but also raise important questions about labor relations and the future of education in the country. Today, on our main discussion, we are paying a critical look at the sector, the education sector, as we explore the causes, the impact, and the possible solutions to this ongoing crisis. It is a crisis, and all of us agree with that, that it is a crisis when all of these teacher unions go on strikes frequently. Over the past few months, teacher unions have been at the forefront of industrial actions. They've been bringing education to a halt on multiple occasions. One that you would recall so much is CTAG. For so many months, CTAG was on strike, and when we spoke with some of the students, they said that it had affected them adversely. They didn't even know when they were going to complete the education, especially for those of them who were in their final year, and CTAG had been on strike so many times. The unions, which include TEWU, the Teachers and Education Workers Union, CTAG, the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, the Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana, the Ghana Association of University Administrators, the Federation of University Senior Staff of Ghana, FUSAG. All of these unions going on strike have repeatedly voiced their frustrations over issues of poor conditions of service, unpaid allowances, and delayed promotions. While these strikes are often aimed at pushing the government to meet their demands, the impact on students and the academic calendar is undeniable. We just spoke during the conversation on Galamsey with a professor. He mentioned that after COVID, they've still been unable to structure their calendar to the former calendar that used to be. So all of these strikes continue to distort the calendar. Schools and universities have had to extend semesters, disrupt planned examinations, and delay graduations due to all of these stoppages. And the financial impact is also significant because parents are forced to spend more on feeding their wards, their children who are in school. When speaking to some of the students who had been affected because of strikes, they had said that they came to school with some items knowing that they were going to spend this number of months in school, so these items are going to be enough for them. When strike happens, it means that they'll have to spend more. After a while, you have to go home because school is not in session. When you go home, you're going to spend the monies that your parents would not have had to spend were you in school. Their wards stay home longer, their quality of education suffers. So many things happen because of strike. And it affects the students, it affects the academic calendar, it affects parents who are at home. So whilst the primary persons are being affected, the secondary persons are also being affected because of all of these strikes. Because of that, we want to look at this conversation. Schools and universities, when all of these are disrupted, means that they have to regroup. Look at the syllabus, because the syllabus has not been completed. When the students come back, lessons have to be rushed. On the other side, government argues that efforts have been made to address some of these concerns raised, such as the salary adjustments and allowances, but more often than not, these interventions appear to be temporary fixes. Equally, the unions also insist that these interventions have been either delayed or are inadequate to address the rising cost of living and demands placed on the educational staff. Nonetheless, it remains critical for all stakeholders to come together to forge a sustainable path forward. We'll be having this conversation on the issues surrounding strike in the education sector. And joining us for the conversation are some persons who are very much important to the conversation. We have joining us at the moment the former director for the Ghana Education Service, Charles Chega, and the national president, Charles Ahetosh Chega, and the national president for TUSAG, Kojo Enin Opan. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This conversation about strike and all in the education sector, this year, for instance, it's been one strike after the other, conversations upon conversations. Let me start with you, National President for TUSAG. How do you respond to the criticism that your frequent strike are harming the students' education and their future prospects? Hello.
Then you are making the strike about the student instead of making it about our welfare.
Yes, we'll come to the welfare, but Ghanaians have criticized you that your frequent strikes are harming the students, and the teacher union strikes are harming the students because without students, teachers' work cannot go on. And when the students come to school and you go on strike, they are adversely affected. So indeed, we do not belittle your welfare. We'll come to that. We just want you to respond to all of this criticism that have come up that you are harming your students' education and their future prospects.
Okay, so let's look at TUSAG, the timing of our strike. It was during vacation. It wasn't a coincidence. We chose to embark on the industrial action when every one of our schools was on vacation. Even though all of our issues have not been resolved, we've chosen to come back before school reopens. So how does it
Hello, Kojo.
Affect the student.
Hello, Kojo. We lost you for just a moment. Please continue. Hello, Kojo. Well, we will establish contact with Kojo, but we also have joining us Charles Aheto Chega, who is the former Director General for GES. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good morning. Yes, madam.
Good morning. There have been so many strikes, especially this year, from the various teacher unions and administrators, all in the education sector. As a former head of the Ghana Education Service, students are suffering because of the strike. At the end of the day, the students at the bottom are the ones who are suffering. Can you give us your initial thoughts on all of these? Could they have looked at a better time to go on strike, or this mass action is needed to get the needed response that they are looking for?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share on this. This is a very, very dicey situation, and it puts everybody who is in management in a very complicated situation when the strikes go on. In most cases, the strikes are not about the system that we are managing, because again, it's not about the system, because beyond us, other people take decisions which invariably affect the people who work with us, and that is where our quote-unquote our powers become a bit ineffective in terms of ensuring that you can insist on certain things that you want to ensure that your organization continues to operate in a manner that is very meaningful to the interest of the children. So it's a very tricky situation, and that is why it's hard to say who is wrong or who is not right. But we have always argued that it is always in the best interest of children if very good decisions are taken ahead of time, so that things can go on, and then organizations can be strengthened with some negotiating powers by which we can literally mediate a process between us and our employees to ensure that we can get good deals that would adhere to the benefits of the children that we look after. So I think that it is government would have to do quite a lot of things in terms of ensuring that these strikes can be minimized.
Yeah. Mr. Chega, what are some of the new approaches or frameworks that government should consider for effective dialogue and negotiation with all of these teacher unions to prevent industrial action?
Oh, well, I'll immediately tell you that is dialogue is one. That is the most important dimension of that whole process. And dialogue breeds participation, and of course should lead to some consensus. So when these three come together, then there can be a very serious reduction in the kind of controversies that have arisen. And I think probably I've just come to mind that the last thing is that when the consensus is built, every party then agrees to perform its part of the deal. Then that happens. But where you reach a consensus and another party, one party says, okay, fine, I'm going ahead and doing this agreement because we have agreed, we have gone through the dialogue, participation and all of that. And then the other party just immediately after leaving the discussion table goes to the office and throws the paper somewhere underneath a certain cupboard and forgets about it. You will definitely have confusion. You definitely have confusion. And that is what is the problem with the kind of issues that are happening, with the kind of strikes that are going on. Once you do not fulfill your part of a consensus, then you are breeding confusion, and leaders and organization heads no longer have control over the issues because the parties or one party in the discussion has chosen not to honor the deal.
Okay. Kojo, I'm coming back to you. Recently, on Monday, you have called off your strike. Is it that government has met your needs, or you are comfortable, you're okay with whatever discussions you have had with them?
Government has not met all our needs. We are also not comfortable, but we know schools are about to reopen. So we choose to come and give government a new deadline. So that if by that deadline all our needs have been met, then hallelujah. If our needs have not been met by that deadline, then we will advise ourselves.
What deadline have you given
them? Back to, I can't, it's different deadlines for different items. It's not one deadline. It's different. And because negotiations are still ongoing, there are certain things I'll not be comfortable to put on air right now. But back to your previous question, you see, strike is the last resort. Nobody enjoys to embark on an industrial action. Actually, once you embark on an industrial action, it means you have failed at the negotiating table. Both parties have failed. Now what happens is, when both parties fail at the negotiation table and the unions are at fault, government is able to withhold their salaries. We saw what happened to CTAC a couple of months ago, where their salaries were withheld. Now, what should the unions do when government is at fault? The unions don't enjoy embarking on strike, but it is the last resort. Once we dialogue and an agreement is reached, both parties must fulfill their obligations in the agreement. But while one party chooses not to fulfill its obligation, and the only way you can get it is by embarking on an industrial action, and you are framing your question as if embarking on industrial actions means we are not being considerate of the student, can you propose any other action we should take instead of the industrial action?
Kojo, this was not in any way to attack you. That question came as a result of growing concerns amongst Ghanaians. That's why initially I said that I was giving you the opportunity to dispel whatever notion Ghanaians had in mind, or what you actually sought to achieve.
They should entreat government to fulfill its obligations. It's as simple as that. Once the obligations are fulfilled, we will come to work, because you see, when you embark on industrial action, we actually heap pressure onto ourselves too, because we defer the work we must. So when you come back, you have to work double the effort. You have to, it's a whole lot of stress. So no one enjoys embarking on industrial actions. But when time and time again government is not fulfilling its end of the bargain, what else? We don't have any other tool. That is it. We don't enjoy the industrial action. No one wants to stay at home. Staying at home is actually boring, by the way. We want to be at work. But going to work, we need some tools. We need certain things to facilitate those processes. It is when those things are not, we are not getting those things. Like the one we just embarked on right now. It was a simple distance. Fuel has gone up. Our colleagues, we stay in the same homes with, we take the same buses with, we go to the same work with. You have increased their fuel allowance because pump prices have gone up, but you are refusing to increase ours. Whilst throughout history, the rate given to us has been the same. So this time, why give us different rates? And this is not something that should even end in strike before you agree to give it to us.
Okay. Well, Kwesi, I'll come back to you.
Every strike is preventable.
Okay. Every strike is preventable. That's Kwesi Eninopan of TUSAG, the national president. Kojo. My apologies, Kojo. Yes. Yeah, we are trying to establish contact with Kwesi Kwarteng, the PRO of the Ministry of Education. It is the reason why I called you Kwesi. My apologies. Mr. Chega,
No worries, madam.
You have been the head of GES before, so you have been in that administrative role. What has been one of your challenges? What has been one of the challenges that the leadership has in engaging some of these unions to come to a conclusion, a very good conclusion that helps both parties or helps the aggrieved party?
Well, thank you very much. I know that during my tenure in office, I made a commitment to myself to ensure that there will be very little industrial relations occurring among the teacher front. And as I mentioned, I decided to commit to the three things that I've talked about: dialogue, participation, consensus, and ensuring that anything that came out from the dialogue or that came out by way of consensus from our discussions would be delivered. Now, as the head of the GES, I don't have very extreme powers in terms of certain actions. So when I am confronted in presenting my part of the issue to the teaching force, I give them the information that, look, because of this is happening, this is happening, I'm not able to meet that particular condition you are giving me because government has made it impossible for me to do one or two things or provide the kind of thing. Then the teachers decide to go on strike, then there's nothing I can do. So that is where the issue comes on. If government is able to facilitate and ensure that decisions that we take are understood and all of that. In fact, we persistently go on to look at the other extreme end in which we try to draw, in this case, teachers' attention to the fact that, well, I mean, you can sort of provide room for grace and provide room for all of this, but that one we know that we can't stretch the teachers too far to a limit where it becomes so unbearable for them. So we at a point we literally give up because there's very little we can do when the kind of things that we desire to make sure that things should happen are not coming, and then you are not getting any credible reasons for which the things should happen. You know, that is not to say that you are not even on the literally the side where you ensure that you are literally giving a kind of negotiation and ensuring that you are trying to bring about cooler heads within the system. So that is where the problem really is for me. But just as I told you, I mean, as long as we engage in very proper discussion and consistent discussion with your people, you will be able to cut short some of the things that lead to confusion. And I think the game is fairness and transparency. Then we can all flow together and ensure that things work out properly.
Well, the game is fairness and transparency. Director, most people have viewed these actions, these industrial actions and demands through political lens. So much so that as soon as a group rises to speak against some of the things that they are not receiving, the first response from the general public is these people are from this party, these people are from that party. From where you sit as having occupied a seat such as yours, how do we dispel these notions so that we can reach a very good conclusion? Because as soon as we start looking at it through political lenses, we start to defeat the purpose of the conversation.
But that's a very interesting thing, because for me, it has been a part of the things that governments do. You know, for government, when you want to diffuse a certain tension, you turn it to a political game. And so you literally set other heads, you know, together and then begin to bunch our heads together on the political game, when in fact you are not doing anything about the issue on the table. So for me, I don't think there is any way we probably would go against it. We need a lot more Ghanaians who understand concerns that workers raise in the way they raise them, you know, and where workers are wrong, we should be bold enough to say you are wrong, or not because you belong to a particular party or you belong to anything. When you are wrong, you are wrong. You can be MPP, you can be APC, you are wrong. You know, so that whole division that is created, it's for me a fine strategy by government to literally try and knock our heads together and divert the attention to a more political confrontation that is unnecessary and irrelevant to the discussion that is going on. So when I was there, I always dismissed that. I guess when I had opportunity to even talk to people in positions, I made them aware that this has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with people's interests and conditions of service, if that is what the case is. Deal with that and stop dealing with the political dimension of it, because that won't work. Because all the people who are in do not all belong to one political party. We know that. So it is very wrong for us to begin to try and dispel strikes by branding people into political parties and all of that. It doesn't help. It won't help. It won't solve any problem. It will only deepen the scores and create more confusion for us.
Okay, doesn't help. Kojo, in speaking with government, you've come back to your offices. You've decided to call off your strike. However, what has been government's position on your demands? You have earlier said, Kojo, that you've given them certain deadlines to certain demands and requests. But what was government's position when you engaged them?
We called off our strike primarily based on two things. One was the MOA we signed, which by the time this month's validation is in, we will know whether government has fulfilled its part. The second part was solely based on the trust we have with the Minister of Education, Fair Wages, and GTEC. We are hoping, we have a gentleman's agreement. We are hoping that they will fulfill certain things that they must do. If these things are met, we'll be okay.
Okay.
If they are not, hello?
Please go on.
Yes, if they are not, then as I said, we will advise ourselves. You see, when the co-panelist was speaking, he kept mentioning trust. It's not good when government is unfair. Let me put it that way. Fairness is all that we are after. No one wants to be overpaid, but no one also wants to be underpaid. As long as there's fairness in the system and everybody is being treated fairly, everybody will be okay. There are agitations only when there is unfairness. As I said, I don't want to go into the details because we are still at the negotiating table. So we are hoping that both the Minister of Finance and GTEC will come together and will get something that is fair for our members.
Kojo, at the moment, are all your members together on their decision? There's an issue with UTAG. UTAG says they are going on strike. However, there is a group in UTAG that says that they do not agree with the industrial action by UTAG. They've mentioned so many things that they don't agree with. When we are looking at TUSAG and TUSAG's demands from government, TUSAG going on strike, TUSAG calling off strike, TUSAG having a gentleman's agreement with fair wages with the Minister of Education and all, are you guys together or is there a division?
TUSAG is one.
TUSAG is together.
TUSAG is one.
Is one. And your interest reflects all of the interest from all the members.
We have the same interest, we have the same aims, we have the same goals.
Okay.
Something affects even one member, it affects everyone. Okay. There can't be a situation where something is affecting a section of the members, then we all keep quiet. No. TUSAG is one. In all our demands, all our interests, TUSAG is one. When we are satisfied together. When we are unsatisfied together.
Okay. Director, let me take your last thoughts on all of these conversations about strikes, CTAG, TUSAG, TEWU, Senior Staff Association, UTAG, and all in the education sector. As a former head of the GES, let's have your final thoughts on this conversation.
Well, thank you very much. My final thoughts are that, you see, education is set up on principles and legislation. And when you break down the principles, it goes down to terms and conditions of service and then scheme of service. And there are specific legal frameworks that have to be yielded to ensure that everything goes on accordingly. So both parties, and here I'm talking about government and the services or the institutions, have respective agreements in that order. Now, it means that there must be a certain kind of accord in the things that we do. As much as possible, if government is unable to deliver on a certain aspect of its share of the responsibility, government must come to the discussion table and begin to hold a discussion that will get all the parties agreeing that, okay, we are in a certain situation X, and so we may not be expecting that key conditions that affect our work would happen because of that situation X. And by this time period, there should be an attempt to resolve that problem, and then we can all have things going. So there is an agreement that, yes, we can agree that there is a waiting period and things happen. And as I said, if you do not disclose, if you are not disclosing issues, then you are not being fair. You ask this question about are they all united? And I'm happy that Kudu thinks that TUSAG is a utopia and that there are no dissensions in TUSAG. But I understand him. There are dissensions in TUSAG. But the point is that when you are united in all the basics of the principles of the terms and conditions of service schemes and schemes of work and all of those things, you are united in them. Now, if for any reason there is a division, then there is an attempt by a certain person or individual or group of persons to try and sow division into TUSAG to bring about that division, which would mean that certain people have been selected for specific privileges which are not given to the broad mass of the people, and so they would be divided in terms of the common cause. So those are the areas where I begin to see what I call division. For me, division is really an indication of unfairness and the need to deal with that division. But that is also one side of it. So it is an issue that we need to be sure that in the way we deal with the people who conduct government businesses in the public services, or also known as workers, there is the need to ensure transparency, fairness in everything that we do for them. Don't go promising something you can't fulfill. And that is very natural about life. And then you can ensure that when things are not happening, you come back to the table and discuss with the people that you are working on. And I believe a lot of these things can be resolved with just a mere division that presents a situation that could possibly happen in the future and could affect the kind of relationship that maybe government has with workers. And once these things happen and you are providing solutions and all of those things, it's fine. I remember one day I told some very important man that, look, in education, we know that we are not getting as much money as possible. But if our contribution is just 1 pesewa, we are not, if our contribution is 1 pesewa, we won't ask for 2 pesewas. Give us that 1 pesewa, but give it annually. If it is going to come in September, let it come. If it will come in December, let it come. It is 1 pesewa. We will deal with that 1 pesewa. Because you say you don't have money, you give us 1 pesewa. Give us that 1 pesewa. That is all. And if you as government, you cannot do this, and you don't even come back to us, but you assume that we should understand, that is a wrong misconception in terms of how you relate with people. So it's a real serious juggling and managing of people's minds and understanding and attitudes in terms of the way things go. So for me, I think government should engage in more dialogue with the people that he or she is working with.
Thank you, Director. Well, Kojo, let's take your final thoughts on this conversation too.
Okay, thank you. Any future industrial action will be as a result of one of these things. One, common allowances should remain common allowances with common rates. Any attempt to pay different rates for common allowances should be prevented. Otherwise, we will have future industrial action on that. Two, because we are in academic institutions, the Vice Chancellor will always be from the teaching side. The Pro Vice Chancellor, the same. Our bosses will always be from the teaching side. What is happening now with the increment in the margins of salaries and allowances, where the gap is so wide that it is no more attractive to be in administration, it will either collapse our schools, or there might be agitations in future which will result in industrial action. Because we can't all be librarians. And because I'm an administrative librarian and you are an academic librarian, we have a huge difference in salary. I don't want to quote the figure, but something should be done about it. It's not the best. It's not. The third one is the way our professionals are being treated just because they are administrators is also not fair. If I'm a medical doctor at the university and I follow through the same processes, we've gone to the same schools, the same ranking system, the same everything, why should my colleague who is a medical doctor in GES be earning far more than me? It's the same patient we look after. Everything is the same. But just because I am in the university and I am classified as an administrator, my same colleague, if we continue doing that, which medical doctor will leave GES and come and work at the universities? And some of these universities are big. You have some 100,000, 120,000. Already they are understaffed.
Okay.
And you choose to pay them less because, so government should look at these three things and mark my words, any future industrial action will be as a result of one of these things not being handled well.
Okay, Kojo. Thank you. So Kojo Eninopan is the national president for TUSAG, the Technical University Senior Administration Association of Ghana, and Charles Aheto Chega is the former director for the Ghana Education Service. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your insights on this conversation. Our conversation is on the issues surrounding strikes in the education sector, from TEWU to TUSAG to UTAG to CTAG to the Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana. So many industrial actions, and we've had a conversation on this. Let's get into our next conversation here on ABC in the Morning. The minority in Parliament is demanding a modality in the disbursement of reliefs for the dry spell that is happening in the upper part of the country. This dry spell has affected so many farmers. The government has resorted or has said that they will be providing some relief packages for the affected farmers in the regions, because the dry spell has been a very prolonged one and it has devastated key agricultural regions. Pardon me. And the dry spell has affected key agricultural regions across Ghana, with reports indicating that nearly half of the 1.8 million hectares of farmlands have been impacted. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture has estimated a staggering 3.5 billion loss in farmer investments, with potential revenue losses reaching 10.4 billion Ghana cedis. As a result, government has dedicated some $500 million to mitigate the food crisis that may result from the drought. And these measures include the distribution of 1,000 Ghana cedi each to affected farmers who have been adversely affected by the drought, the distribution of fertilizers, importation of rice and other grains to make up for the losses. However, at the recent reconvening of Parliament, some members of the minority on Parliament's Finance Committee have raised concerns over the Finance Minister's requests for 500 million Ghana cedis from the contingency fund to address the ongoing drought impacting 8 regions in the country. The minority also questioned the timing and rationale behind the fund request, as well as the decision to reduce budgets of the Agriculture and Road Ministries to raise over 8 billion to tackle the issue. They also raised concerns over the distribution criteria for the distribution of the cash and other items to the farmers. Let's take a look at some of the concerns and demands that have come up following this conversation.
I also wish to indicate that it is important that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is also called upon to submit before this House all the mining licenses that we are told have been issued in the last 2 to 3 years. Mr. Speaker, it is alarming to note that in the last 4 years, over 2,000 mining licenses, we are told, have been issued. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the 1992 Constitution, Article 2681 and 2 clearly states, and with your permission, I quote, "Any transaction, contract, or undertaking involving the grant of a right or concession by or on behalf of any person, including the government of Ghana, to any other person
or a number of farmers, 800,000 farmers, arising out of a drought situation in the north." Mr. Speaker, my question to the leaders and to your good self is that how many members of Parliament from the north in the affected areas have been so engaged in the determination of who benefit what? And we demand that no such decision or approval should be taken without the involvement of the members of Parliament from the north, from the affected communities, making input into determining who gets what from the Ministry of Agric and Ministry of Agriculture, including the regional and district agric offices and members of Parliament. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, it may as well be somebody wanting 800,000 votes through the back door and giving monies to farmers in the name of farming in order to lure and endure those people. So, Mr. Speaker, may I request through you that the Honorable Minister for Agriculture and Finance work through members of Parliament. Then we know they mean well for farmers in the north, because to every
letter that I have in my hand here, where the Minister of Agri had written to Minister of Finance asking for some tax exemptions so that they import grains, rice, and what have you, in order to mitigate what they refer to as crisis with respect to the drought in the northern part of this country. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for us to bring the Minister of Agri to this House to come and tell us how he got the tax exemptions without parliamentary approval. He shouldn't be allowed to undermine this House. It is only this House that can give tax exemptions. And so we need him here to come and tell us whether indeed he's gone ahead to secure tax exemptions without any approval from this great House. Mr. Speaker, it is also important for us to know how he was able to select those rice importers. What process did he go through? Did he go through any procurement or any transparent process to select those rice importers? We need to know. Because some rice importers have even petitioned the minister, and I have a copy of the letter here. Mr. Speaker, sometimes there's no crisis. Our colleagues...
Also, you are privy to the conversation on the relief for the affected farmers. We tried to establish contact with members from the opposing sides of the parliament to speak to them on this conversation. But before that, let's speak with the executive director for the Peasants Farmers Association, Bismarck Norte. He joins us for this conversation. Good morning, Bismarck. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Bismarck.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Bismarck, the minority is raising similar issues as you have raised in the past. However, the minister has mentioned that they have diligently started distribution of the items to the affected farmers. Has any member of your association started receiving these items?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Before I touch on your question, let me touch on the issues raised by the minority. During the heat of the discussion around the support, we made it very clear that peasant farmers are in support of any intervention that seeks to support farmers. However, we were not pleased with the approach by which the ministry was adopting. So in view of that, we actually filed a petition to the Speaker of Parliament for the Speaker to bring the minister for them to probe it further regarding the approach they want to use and then the justification, the amount they are requesting. Now, regarding the issue raised by the minister that the exercise is going on, I'm currently from the field. The whole of last week, I was in the Uti region. The whole of this week, I've been in the Upper East region. And I can tell on authority that there is no distribution going on now. In fact, the information that we've gathered, even from the own agri director that we've engaged, is that they are even at loss as to exactly what the modalities are. On one breath, there are some who tell you that they are even now doing the registration of farmers. There are others who tell you that they are even now compiling the names. Our engagement with the farmers even shows that a lot of the farmers are not even aware that they are supposed to go and register. Meanwhile, they are being told that they are supposed to register under the Ghana Agribusiness Platform. That's the GAPS. The GAPS itself, as I'm speaking to you, has a lot of challenges because for a farmer to be registered and acknowledged, you need to be registered under the GAPS, and then you need to have your farm being mapped by the extension officer. So the first step is that you go to the extension officer, or they come to you to register you to get details of you and your farm. That shows that your farm was affected by the drought. Then they have to now follow you to your farm and then map your farm. So when the mapping is done, that's when the data is complete. As I'm speaking to you now, majority of farmers have not even registered, let alone having their farms mapped. If you speak to the agri directors, the information is that the registration is ongoing. So farmers will need to contact their respective extension officers. Now the reality is that if you come to the communities, you have one extension officer who is attending to over 30,000 farmers. So what is the realistic plan for one officer to register over 30,000 farmers in his or her jurisdiction? So it means that even the approach of registering farmers is not even something that can work very well. And then secondly, the GAPS platform that we have been using, as I mentioned, is the same platform that was used to register farmers under the PFDA 2.0. Now, the last time I checked, the data from the platform indicated that just about 800,000 farmers have registered. Now, these 800,000 farmers are farmers who are supposed to be part of the PFDA 2.0, and then the support for the dry stop. So the question is this: even if
the farmers that are registered for PFJ 2.0, if those farmers, up to now, they are 800,000 cedis, and this exercise was done for over 6 months. On what basis did the minister get the figure of 800,000 farmers for only 8 regions who are affected by the drought? So you could tell that the whole exercise itself is done in some form of secrecy, because there seems to be no clarity even from the extension officers, from the directors, and even from the farmers. So I don't agree with the minister, because even when it comes to even the distribution, what is the mode of distribution? No one knows. What is the timeline of distribution? When are they starting? No one knows. The distribution, is it going to occur simultaneously in all the districts, or is it going to be done district per district? No one knows. Have they started in a particular region? No one knows. So it's like all the information is in the bosom of the minister. And as and when he feels that he has to release information. So on the ground, it's not true. Teaching officers like that we engage, a lot of them, when you even speak to them, they seem to have little information of what is going on. So I don't know on what basis is the minister saying that the distribution has started.
Well, Bismarck, there are 1,000 Ghana cedis that has been marked to give to the affected farmers. In your discussions, especially with your group, is it a good amount for them? Is it an amount that can sustain them to a certain point?
You see, in the first place, the information that we are getting is that 1,000 cedis that is going, it is going for the most vulnerable of farmers who are registered under the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty. That's the LEAP. So they are going to use the LEAP database. They will use that database and then use that as a basis to distribute that money to the affected farmers. So that is even a problematic approach, because one, the LEAP database, the LEAP beneficiaries, they are not necessarily farmers, because most of them are people who are not economically active. So if you are saying that you are going to distribute money to the LEAP beneficiaries, and the LEAP beneficiaries too, they are not people who are economically active, how are you going to sift and let us know that these beneficiaries are indeed farmers who also had their inputs, their farms being affected by the drought? So that's one aspect of this whole the discussion. Then the second leg, that has to do with the amounts. My information is that if it is successful, they are giving 1,000 cedis per hectare as a compensation for farmers who were affected. As I earlier mentioned, we are in support of any intervention that seeks to provide relief for farmers. But it is the mode and the approach and the justification for it, that's the basis. You see, if you are going to give money to farmers to compensate them, you should have done some calculation to know the basis for which you are giving an X amount of money. Currently, we do not know the basis for that, because if a farmer who is doing 1 hectare of even maize, that farmer will not spend less than 5,000 cedis on 1 hectare. So on what basis are you going to allocate just 1,000 cedis for the person? In any case, would that money even be enough to compensate for the loss the farmer has made? So, and what we are saying that approach is not even sustainable. And if you look at even the timing, it is like it is an avenue for government to also use them to buy votes. So if you are putting in an approach to support farmers, why don't you look out for a more realistic and more sustainable approach? The issue has to do with the fact that farmers, due to the dry spell, they've lost their crops. What caused the dry spell? It's an issue of irrigation. So why don't you use the money to invest in sustainable system, so that in the near future, farmers don't suffer that particular fate? But you are using a short-term approach, an approach that you are looking at the political gains rather than its stability. So you can tell that the whole thing, as I mentioned, that the ministry is not opening up itself for accountability and scrutiny. Because if the idea is even to provide this support to the farmers, why are you not making the data available to stakeholders? Why are you not telling us that, as at now, you have registered 10,000 farmers in Gusegu, 5,000 in Saboba, so that we all know and verify? Currently, all this information is not out there. So even the business to which they are giving the money and the targeted farmers, it's a whole issue that if you are not careful, you may have these political exposed people taking over the whole process and then they're benefiting at the expense of farmers. And that is something that we are speaking against.
Okay, so you fear that the political people will take over this and then at the expense of the farmers, at the end of the day, monies will be dispersed, but the farmers who have been affected will not have seen any of that money.
Yes, and we have a firm basis for arriving at this conclusion.
Okay.
If you look at the BFJ 2.0, you know there was a component around it that was the grant component. Now, our information was that this grant component was given to the politicians, so the MPs and the DCs had control of the fertilizer. If you go to several districts, you had the DCs and the MPs competing with the agri directors over who should control the fertilizer. Now, because these agri directors and the sales officers, for them to protect their jobs, they have to now give in to the demands of the DCs. And we have some DCs and some MPs who take the fertilizers, send them to their own warehouses, load them, and then on their own decide how and when they want to distribute to their members. We have records of DCs and MPs who are selling those fertilizers to their people. We have records of DCs and MPs who are distributing it to their party people. So if we have this experience there, what is the guarantee that this new approach, they are not going to allow the same approach to be used? But that's the fear we have. Because even before the registration started under the GAFS platform, we had information that some key party people have started going around registering people purported to be farmers for them to benefit. And these people will definitely be captured under any politician who stands to benefit. So you could tell that based on the history, based on the experience, it is something that it is likely to happen. But that's why, to avoid this political involvement, it is incumbent that the ministry is transparent. The ministry is able to release information. The ministry is able to allow the right frontline implementers of agricultural interventions in the country. The agri directors, both at the district level and the regional level, should be the one championing it. But the current approach is not allowing them to do their work. The current approach is allowing the politicians to take over the work of the agri directors, and they are frustrating them. So this is making it difficult for the actual farmers to benefit. And if you are not careful, the same approach will be used to give fertilizers, money, and food items to political people instead of actual farmers who I can tell in authority, many of them do not even know what is going on as of now.
Bismarck, the last time we spoke with you, you shared your fears that there was going to be some inflation on the figures of affected farmers.
Please, can you speak out louder?
Okay, Bismarck, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, I can hear you.
The last time we spoke on ABC in the morning, you shared your fears about the issue of inflation of the figures of affected farmers. You were quite skeptical that they may not present the right number of farmers. The numbers could be bloated. And the PRO from the ministry, when we spoke, said that the numbers were available for you to check. Have you gotten any clarification on the numbers at the moment?
I can tell you on authority that, since this issue started, we have already deployed our men in several districts to monitor the exercise. And we've been to several districts. And almost all the districts that we have gone to, the directors there are even not able to give us the actual numbers of farmers who are going to benefit from this exercise. In fact, some of them do not even know the numbers who are going to benefit. So it means that as we speak, there is no evidence that there are X number of farmers who have registered to indicate that they were affected by the flood, by the drought. So the first question I want to ask is, on what basis did the minister even proclaim or forecast that they are targeting 800,000 farmers? Because as I said, under the PFJ 2.0, the whole PFJ, which is supposed to cover farmers all over the country, as at now, the registration of farmers was just about 800,000, at least the official record from the ministry. So if we are talking about 16 regions, all farmers in the country are registering, and you are getting about 800,000 farmers. How are we being told now that the drought victims who are in only 8 regions, and they are not all the farmers involved, but only farmers who are affected, are also up to 800,000? How did we get the figure? In the first place, if you remember, when the minister had the first press conference, he gave us 2 figures. On the first part, he said that in their estimation, about 900,000 farmers were estimated to have been affected. But per their own analysis, just about 400,000 farmers were actually affected. Now we are being told that the numbers is not 800,000. So we are not even sure the figure. So the best thing would have been that, why don't you let the systems work at the various districts and regions, so that you're able to get a figure from the respective districts, so that if Gusegu, 20 farmers go and register, Taboba, 50 farmers, we validate the figures, we all know, and then we compare them. Then we can say that, oh, based on what has gone on, we've been able to register about 200,000 farmers. The minister didn't do that on his own. He gave a figure as high as 800,000 cities, just to give him justification to be able to get resources to match that figure. And I can tell you that the farmers who were actually victims of this drought spell will not be up to that number. But if you are not careful, the ministry will be able to report that they give support to all these 800,000 farmers. And that's something that as a country we should be very careful about.
Okay. That's something as a country we should be very careful about. Thank you for speaking with us, Bismarck.
You're welcome.
Bismarck Norte is the Executive Director for the Peasants Farmers Association. This conversation on the dry spell, you would recall that a dry spell hits the northern part of Ghana. About 8 of the regions in Ghana have been affected by the dry spell. The Ministry of Agriculture has put in place some initiatives to support these affected farmers. However, the minority has raised concerns about the monies they are requesting and demands the modality in the disbursement of the reliefs for the farmers. Bismarck Norte believes that the way they are going about it is not the best way, and this is something that should be left to the districts to be able to collate the right number of farmers who have been affected. This is a conversation on the dry spell in the upper part of the country. That's all for our discussion segment today on ABC in the Morning. Let's take a breather. We will be back.
Advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot. You can advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot. You can advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching ABC in the Morning live on ABC News GH. Up next is Politics Today. Well, on Politics Today, we are looking at the emergence of party-affiliated groups as a propaganda tool in the elections. In Ghana's political landscape, party supporters have so many groups, and party supporter groups are very essential in shaping the electoral outcomes, especially during the campaign season. I mean, the party executives cannot go everywhere to speak to everybody, but these groups, often made up of grassroots supporters, youth wings, and influential local figures, are critical in disseminating propaganda and rallying public support for their respective political parties. It is not surprising when you pass here and you hear girls for Abena, boys for Abena, old women for Abena. All of these are party affiliated groups when they put themselves together and identify themselves with a certain person in the party or the party in general. Through various strategies, they amplify party messages, shape public opinion, and build loyalty among voters. They build loyalty among voters. One of the main ways political parties use supporter groups for propaganda is by mobilizing grassroots support, and they often organize rallies, door-to-door campaigns, and community meetings where they propagate party policies, highlight their candidates' achievements, and more subtly criticize their opponents. In recent years, the role of social media has transformed political campaigns in Ghana, and party supporters and party supporter groups have been at the forefront of this digital revolution. These groups use platforms such as Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, to disseminate political propaganda. They create and share content designed to glorify their party leaders whilst discrediting their opponents. Ahead of this election, party supporter groups have been seen playing key roles in organizing and coordinating political events such as rallies and press conferences. And I'm sure our viewers have seen many of these groups, and very interesting names for these groups, okay, from the various political parties, especially the front runners for the election, the NPP and the NDC. So many groups across social media. On TikTok, the dynamic is different. On X, the dynamic is different. On Facebook, the dynamic is different. On Instagram, the dynamics is different. They have been able to leverage these various social media platforms in order to reach certain people. You understand that a certain demographic loves TikTok, and it is where they spend at least 60 or 70% of their time perusing what is on there. Another demographic loves the X platform, another Facebook, another Instagram, and these party affiliated groups have been able to strategically position themselves so that they can meet all of these demographics and meet them properly. Some of them to the extent of even visiting churches. So they decide that this group is a group that every Sunday we will worship with at least 3 or 4 churches to drum home the policies that our flag bearer is championing ahead of this election. It's very interesting, actually, very, very interesting when you see the way some of them go about their work, and it seems to be working for them. It seems to be getting them the eyeballs and the ears to listen to their message. And looking at this emergence of party affiliated groups as a propaganda tool in elections, let's speak with Dr. Samuel Efriye, a political scientist at the Kumasi Technical University. Doc, you're welcome to ABC in the morning.
Yes, thank you very much, and also greetings to your viewers as well. And good morning.
Good morning, Doc. We are getting into the elections. It is not surprising that we are seeing so many of these party-affiliated groups. Will they have an impact on the number of votes the parties garner on December 7th?
Thank you once again. You know, the political groups that I think we are looking at, is it those that want that vote for the IPAC or the various groups that do that take the campaign?
Well, the mobilization groups, like not to mention any group for any party. Let me use myself as an example. Say I was standing as a candidate for the elections, and there was boys for Abena Mantse, girls for Abena Mantse. These kind of groups that mobilize votes for their political parties.
Yes. I get a picture now. You know, I think there are groups that are in for specific tasks. That is what I know about these political parties forming some of these groups. Even I've seen some even washing vehicles. See, you park somewhere and the vehicles are dirty and they will come and wash it for you. It's a way of trying to get in touch with voters and to be more cordial, be more diplomatic, so that maybe your mind will change. So it's very, very important that we all need to look at some of these groups. And if I should say, these groups are mostly targeted for specific groups. So let's say, for example, I don't want to mention, but I've seen some for ladies for Mahama, ladies for Baobia, this group, at least I just give you examples. And all these are groups that are targeted for specific individuals or groups within the voter population. So I think they also make an impact. They also make some impact on these groups. Even though the party it strains them in terms of resources, and you know, some also take an advantage of these times to also create groups so that they can siphon some political campaigns budget or money for their own interest, you know. So it has its good side and also has its bad side. Depends on how these political parties will manage them. Even sometimes some of these groups are being set up or being at least defined without even the knowledge of the national or the regional executive. And these things create a lot of challenge for the political parties. If not, I've heard some parties, these party groups, that it all comes out within this time so that they will demand certain kind of logistics, and then maybe it will not get to the target audience that they talk to be so, but it end up in their own the wrong pocket, if I should say so.
But in the election, should we expect to see an impact of these groups in the results that come out of the elections? Would they sway votes for their various political parties?
Yes, thank you. Well, seriously, I have not chanced on any research on these type of groupings and their impact on voting, let's say results, or the voting. Maybe this special group was set up for this tax and they're able to make some of this. I have not chanced in any yet, but I think that on the surface they can make some kind of improvement on the voter population for the parties that they are in for, because the basis that some of us use to vote, you know, are not so strong that any kind of groupings that have a cordial interaction. Some even buy food for others. Some even wash their cars. Some even buy certain party things for them, you know, T-shirts and those kind of things. And some people can use that to vote. But whether it brings a lot of change in the voting pattern is where seriously I've not chanced on any kind of research that makes this thing so. But they may have some kind of impact on the elections. One or two people can vote based on some of these groups' actions.
Dr. Fiye, do you see these groups as indeed selling the policies of their parties, or you would regard them as propagandists?
I think yesterday I was watching TV and I saw the lecturers of Legon. I think the NDC group of lecturers that are in Legon. I saw one of my good friends, I think this woman, I've forgotten the name, and they were in the city, trying to get these voters to educate them about how to vote for the NDC based on the voting, and that is the ballot paper. And I've also seen that some are also in the market, also trying to sell the various parties' issues or policies to the various communities or the target groups. Well, I think it is one or the other. I will look at if they are properly managed, if they are properly organized in tandem with the regional executives and the party national executive, and even the constituency. I think that they can make a great impact so that they will not have multiplicity of these groups, hence having different kinds of intentions. And if they are not coordinated, it will create more problems than what they think that it could help. And sometimes some of these things are propaganda purpose, depending on where you are coming from. Some of these groups can be set up. It can be set up purposely to undertake some propaganda agenda, and we cannot take that one away from these kind of groups that are being set up by the political parties and groups within the parties.
Dr. Fiye, in the lead up to the elections, we've seen pockets of violence, especially you find that the youth are found anywhere these pockets of violence happens. These groups that have put themselves together to drive the party to a successful end, should we be concerned about them in that closer to the election we may find that they may transform themselves for certain violent activities?
Yes, if they are not being managed well, some will set up a security kind of a group to protect ballots, to protect the party, to protect a parliamentary candidate, to protect a certain individual. And these things, if it is not well checked, it will result in some of these violence and conflicts within our communities. And it's very, very, very important, especially areas that are being considered as hotspot for the political parties. In Ashanti region, we have a lot of hotspots within the region. And if you're not careful, and these places, they set up these security kind of groups to protect individuals, to protect the ballot, to protect their interests, then it will end up, there are also another group also setting up to face them. And this will end up in some of these conflicts and some of these issues that will pop up to create violence within our community. So in that session that we are looking at, if it ends up into security management of the elections for these parties in certain these kind of groups, then it might affect to bring a lot of violence and conflict within our community. So I think that this area, the security agencies, the police and the military should be concerned if they realize that some of these security apparatus are being set up by the party and also individuals within to protect the voter processes. I think the security agencies need to come in to avoid that. If not, it might be, because some of them are also good. They will go into the education intent, looking at educating the public. But when others are being set up for security management, then that is where it has to be taken serious. Because if not, it will just bring a lot of problems to the electoral process that we want to achieve at the end of December 7th election.
Other areas can the parties explore with these groups, especially after the elections?
After the elections, please come again. I didn't hear the earlier part.
Yes. So beyond the mobilization and rallies that these groups undertake, what other areas can the parties explore with the groups now, between now and the elections, and especially after the elections?
I think that the focus should be on the education of the voting process, and also to look at the political parties' policies. But for now, I think the attention should be on the political process, because it has been notified, it has been noticed that for some time now, the 1992 constitution of the electoral processes, we have a lot of rejected ballots, which stems, or when you do the analysis, is less than, I think, more than 100,000 rejected ballots and votes. And this is serious. So I think that the political parties should earmark themselves about political education, processes of voting, certain things, how to put them, the finger, the thumbprint, and those ink and those issues need to be well given out to the voters, so that the parties themselves will not be affected with some of these rejected ballots, and that is the vote. It will affect them a lot, so they need to concentrate on that. And again, they should also concentrate on telling the electorate or voters about the policies. That will be more convincing enough for people to vote for them. And I think these two areas will be more seriously impactful to the results or the vote that will come at the end of December 7th.
Thank you, Dr. Fiye.
My pleasure.
Dr. Fiye is a political scientist at the Kumasi Technical University. The conversation is about the various party-affiliated groups that have emerged and if they are being used as propaganda tools ahead of the elections. That's all for politics today. We'll be back. Stay with us. And up next is Happy Hour. Today we have something interesting for you on Happy Hour. Stay with us. Throwback Thursday, we'll listen to some music, especially music that gives you some nostalgia. In addition, today is the birthday of some very popular people in Ghana, people who have brought recognition to the country. We enjoy their songs and we are glad when we are at a party and their songs come up. Today is the birthday of Rocky Dawuni. For all reggae lovers, Rocky Dawuni's birthday. Today is the birthday of the boss of the SM Nation, Shatta Wale Charles Ni Ama. And today is also the birthday of that man who sings and then his voice is soothing and the lovers love his song. Kwabena celebrates his birthday today. So we say happy birthday to all three great men, Rocky Dauni, Shatta Wale, and Kwabena. Let's listen to their music. Their music.
Mikita minsem acha dia